pregnant single mom mistakenly sent her baby bump picture to a Korean mafia boss. His ruthless response left her trembling. The bullet shattered the window behind my head. Glass exploded inward as I dove, covering Vicky and Hannah with my body. 3 more shots rang out in rapid succession. Stay down. My hand was already reaching for the gun at my ankle, muscle memory from years of survival kicking in. Hannah's scream pierced through the chaos. Daddy. 2 men burst through the door, weapons raised. Jung-hoon, my own cousin, stood behind them, his face a mask of cold calculation. It's over, Kangdae. The council has decided. Your foreign wife, your bastard child, they're liabilities we can no longer afford. That's when Jonathan did something I never expected. He threw himself between the gunman and my daughter, taking a blade meant for her across his shoulder. Blood sprayed across the white marble floor. Get away from my daughter. His voice was raw with pain and something else. Desperation. Love, maybe. Your daughter? I was on my feet now, my own gun leveled at the closest attacker. She stopped being yours the moment you walked away. The immigration officer's voice crackled through someone's dropped phone on the floor, her recorded statement playing on loop. This marriage is fraudulent. Mrs. Park has 24 hours to leave the country with the child, or face deportation and criminal charges. Vicky clutched Hannah tighter, her eyes meeting mine across the chaos. We both knew what this moment meant. Everything we'd built over 3 years, our family, our life, our love, it was all crumbling. Jung-hoon stepped forward, gun now pointed directly at me. You've forgotten what we are, cousin. We don't love. We conquer. We take. We survive. That woman has made you weak. Then let me show you how the weak fight. I pulled the trigger. In my world, showing weakness gets you killed. Loving a foreign woman and raising another man's child? That's not just weakness. That's a death sentence. But 3 years ago, a single wrong number changed everything. One mistyped digit brought them into my life. And now, bullets, blood, and betrayal are the price for keeping them. My cousin wanted me to choose between my empire and my family. The immigration office wanted to tear us apart. Jonathan wanted to claim fatherhood he'd abandoned. And all I wanted was to protect the 2 people who taught me that monsters can become men, if they find the right reason. If you've ever had to fight for your family against impossible odds, if you've ever had to prove that love isn't weakness but the most dangerous weapon of all, stay with me. Because what happened next didn't just test my power. It baptized our family in fire. And only the strongest bonds would survive the flames. 3 years earlier, I'd stood in a hospital room watching Vicky give birth to a daughter who wasn't mine by blood, but became mine in every other way that mattered. I'd held that tiny life in my hands and made a promise. Nothing would ever hurt her. I would be the father she deserved, even if the world said I had no right to claim that title. Now, as I looked at the envelope that had arrived that morning, I realized how fragile promises could be when the past refused to stay buried. Vicky stood by the window of our bedroom, morning light catching the silver in her dark hair. 3 years of marriage, 3 years of building a life together, and I could still read every emotion on her face. Right now, fear was winning. The letter was from a law firm in Los Angeles. Jonathan Martinez was petitioning for paternity rights. He wanted a DNA test. He wanted visitation. He wanted to be part of Hannah's life. He has no rights. My voice was harder than I intended. He abandoned you. He ran when you needed him most. Vicky turned to face me, her expression a mixture of anger and something else I couldn't quite identify. Legally, he might have rights. He's her biological father, Kangdae. We can't just pretend that doesn't matter. Biology means nothing. I was there when she was born. I held her through every fever, every nightmare. I taught her to walk, to speak Korean, to play piano. Where was he? In rehab. Vicky's voice was quiet. According to the letter, he's been sober for 2 years. He has a steady job. He volunteers at a youth center. She paused. He's changed. People don't change. I've seen too many men make promises they can't keep. He'll disappoint her just like he disappointed you. You changed. Her words stopped me cold. You went from a man who couldn't commit to anything beyond your business to a father who reads bedtime stories in 3 languages. People can change, Kangdae. Maybe he has too. I wanted to argue, to dismiss her faith in Jonathan's supposed transformation. But the truth was more complicated. I had changed. Vicky and Hannah had made me want to be more than the cold, calculated man I'd been when we first met. Before I could respond, small footsteps padded down the hallway. Hannah appeared in our doorway, her stuffed tiger dragging behind her. She had Vicky's delicate features but my serious dark eyes. The combination was devastating. "Appa, why are you and Yama sad?" Her Korean was perfect for a 3-year-old, mixed seamlessly with English depending on her mood. Vicky knelt down, pulling Hannah into her arms. "We're not sad, sweetheart. Just talking about grown-up things." Hannah's eyes, too perceptive for her age, moved between us. "Is it about the letter? The one that made Yama cry?" My jaw tightened. Vicky had been crying. I'd noticed the redness around her eyes when I came home last night, but she'd brushed it off as allergies. Now I understood. "Come here, little one." I lifted Hannah into my arms, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. "Nothing for you to worry about." But she was worrying. I could see it in the way she clutched her tiger tighter, in the way her small body tensed. Children always knew when their world was shifting beneath them. The rest of the day passed in a blur of normalcy that felt increasingly fragile. Breakfast with Hannah chattering about her upcoming dance recital. A call from Minho about a shipping contract that needed my attention. Vicky working at her laptop, translating documents for the pharmaceutical company that had hired her remotely. To anyone watching, we were the picture of domestic tranquility. A successful businessman, his beautiful wife, their precocious daughter. No one would guess that beneath the surface, everything was starting to crack. That afternoon, I met with Mrs. Choi, the attorney who handled all my legitimate business interests. Her office overlooked the Han River, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a view that cost more than most people's homes. She read through Jonathan's petition with the detached professionalism that made her one of Seoul's most sought-after lawyers. "This is problematic," she said finally. "The biological father's claim has merit, especially if he can prove he's been actively searching for the child and has reformed his life. He abandoned them. Doesn't that count for anything, Mrs.?" Choi's expression was sympathetic but firm. In Korean family law, biological ties carry significant weight. If he can demonstrate that he's stable, employed, and genuinely interested in the child's welfare, a court might grant him visitation rights. "Over my dead body, Mr. Park." Her tone sharpened. "I understand your feelings, but legal battles are won with strategy, not emotion. We need to demonstrate that removing or disrupting Hannah's current family situation would cause her harm. We need to prove that your family unit is stable and in her best interest." "It is stable. Is it?" Mrs. Choi pulled out another file. "Because I've also been contacted by the immigration office. Your wife's visa status is under review. Someone has flagged her file, raising questions about the legitimacy of your marriage." The rage that flooded through me was cold and calculating. This wasn't coincidence. Someone was orchestrating this, using multiple pressure points to destabilize my family. Who requested the review? The request came from an anonymous source. But given the timing, concurrent with Mr. Martinez's petition, I would suspect coordination. Find out who. I stood already planning my next moves, and prepare a defense for the immigration hearing. My marriage is legitimate in every way that matters. "Mr. Park." Mrs. Choi's voice stopped me at the door. "There's one more thing. Mr. Martinez's petition includes medical information. Apparently, there's a hereditary heart condition that runs in his family. He's requesting that Hannah be tested." The information hit me like a physical blow. Medical history was the one thing I couldn't provide for Hannah. The one gap in my knowledge of her that reminded me she carried someone else's genetic legacy. What kind of condition? Hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It's manageable if caught early, but it can be serious if left undiagnosed. Mrs. Choi's expression softened. "He's not wrong to want her tested, Mr. Park. This isn't just about custody. This is about her health." I left her office with my mind racing. Jonathan wasn't just fighting for parental rights. He was offering something I couldn't, information about Hannah's biological heritage that might be crucial to her well-being. That evening, I found Vicky in Hannah's room, watching our daughter sleep. The nightlight cast soft shadows across Hannah's face, making her look even younger than her 3 years. Mrs. Choi told me about the heart condition. Vicky didn't look at me. Do you think we should have her tested? Yes. The admission cost me more than I wanted to acknowledge. If there's a medical risk, we need to know. Vicky finally turned to face me. This is why he's doing this, isn't it? Not just because he wants to be her father. Because he actually has information we need. Maybe. I moved to stand beside her, my hand finding hers in the darkness. But that doesn't change anything. She's still our daughter. This is still our family. Is it? Vicky's voice broke slightly. The immigration office thinks our marriage is fake. Jonathan thinks he deserves to be her father. Your own organization probably sees us as a liability. How long can we keep fighting everyone? Kangdae? As long as it takes. I pulled her close, feeling the familiar shape of her body against mine. I didn't survive in my world by giving up when things got difficult. And I'm not starting now. But even as I said the words, I felt the weight of the battles ahead. Jonathan's petition, the immigration review, and something else, something I hadn't told Vicky yet. The growing unrest within my own organization over my foreign wife and non-biological daughter. Jung-hoon had made his position clear during our last family meeting. You've gone soft, cousin. The elders see it. Your enemies see it. How long before someone decides to test whether you're still the man who built this empire? At the time, I dismissed his concerns as jealousy. Jung-hoon had always resented that I'd inherited leadership instead of him. But now, with everything else crumbling, I wondered if he'd been warning me or threatening me. My phone buzzed with a text from Min-ho. We need to talk. Tonight. It's urgent. I kissed the top of Vicky's head. I have to go out for a few hours. Business that can't wait. She pulled back, searching my face. Is it dangerous? No more than usual. The lie came easily, practiced over years of shielding her from the darker aspects of my world. But as I drove through Seoul's nighttime streets toward the private room where Min-ho waited, I knew that nothing about our situation was usual anymore. The careful separation I'd maintained between my family life and my business was collapsing. And I wasn't sure I could protect Vicky and Hannah from what was coming. Min-ho was waiting in the back room of a restaurant I owned, his expression grim. He'd been my closest friend and most trusted lieutenant for 15 years. If he was worried, I needed to pay attention. We have a problem. He slid a folder across the table. Jung-hoon has been meeting with the Park faction. The ones who've wanted you out since you married Vicky. I opened the folder, scanning the surveillance photos. My cousin in conversation with 3 of the family elders. Men who'd never hidden their disapproval of my choices. What are they planning? A vote of no confidence. Min-ho's voice was flat. They're using your marriage and Hannah as evidence that you've lost focus. That you've prioritized your foreign family over the organization's interests. When? 2 weeks. They're calling a full council meeting. Jung-hoon has been building support, arguing that your attachment to Vicky and Hannah makes you vulnerable. That enemies could use them as leverage against you. The irony wasn't lost on me. My cousin was right. Vicky and Hannah were my weakness, the only things in the world I cared about more than power or survival. And in my world, visible weaknesses got exploited. What's the play? I asked Min-ho. You could send them away, temporarily, until this blows over. He held up a hand before I could respond. I know you won't, but I have to say it. If they're not here, they can't be used against you. They're my family. I'm not sending them away. Then you need to demonstrate strength. Show the council that your family doesn't make you weak, it makes you more dangerous. Because you now have something worth killing for. I thought about Jung-hoon's words, his accusation that I'd forgotten what we were. But he was wrong. I hadn't forgotten. I'd evolved. I'd learned that the kind of power that came from protecting something precious was far more dangerous than the power that came from having nothing to lose. Set up a meeting with Jung-hoon. Private. Just the 2 of us. Boss, that's not safe. If he's planning a move against you, he won't kill me. Not yet. He wants the council to strip me of power first. He wants it to be legitimate. I stood already planning my next moves. But I need to understand exactly what he's planning. And I need him to understand what I'm willing to do to protect my family. As I drove home, my phone rang. An unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but instinct made me pick up. Mr. Park? A man's voice, American accent. My name is Jonathan Martinez. I think it's time we talked. The silence on the line stretched between us like a wire pulled too tight. I could hear his breathing, nervous and unsteady. So different from the confident businessman I'd become, the man who'd learned to weaponize silence in negotiations. We have nothing to discuss. My voice was ice. Any communication should go through attorneys. Please, just 5 minutes. The desperation in his voice was real. I'm not trying to take her away from you. I just need you to understand why I'm doing this. Against every instinct, I found myself pulling into an empty parking lot. The city lights of Seoul glittered around me. A kingdom I'd built through calculated risks and ruthless decisions. Now a stranger's voice on the phone was asking me to make the most dangerous gamble of all. To listen. 5 minutes. I checked my watch. Starting now. Jonathan's exhale was audible. Thank you. Look, I know you have no reason to trust me. I know what I did to Vicky, to our daughter, was unforgivable. She's my daughter. The correction came automatically, viscerally. Yes. Pause. She is. You've been her father in every way that matters. I'm not disputing that. But Mr. Park, she's also got my DNA running through her veins, and that DNA comes with a ticking time bomb. The heart condition. My brother died of it at 15. Just collapsed one day during soccer practice. If my parents had known, if they'd caught it earlier, he might still be alive. Jonathan's voice cracked. I can't let that happen to Hannah. I can't lose another person I love to something preventable. Despite my anger, despite every reason to distrust him, I heard the genuine fear in his voice. The terror of a man who'd watched someone die and was desperately trying to prevent history from repeating. You could have sent the medical information without filing for custody. I tried. Your lawyers blocked every attempt at contact. Jonathan's frustration bled through. I've been searching for Vicky and my daughter for 2 years, ever since I got sober and realized what I'd thrown away. But you'd buried them so deep, changed Vicky's name in every database, made them disappear. He wasn't wrong. After we'd married, I'd used every resource at my disposal to protect my family's privacy, to make sure no one from Vicky's past could find them. I'd never considered that someone might have a legitimate reason to search. What do you want, Mr. Martinez? Jonathan. Please just call me Jonathan. What I want is to know she's okay. To maybe, if you and Vicky agree, see her occasionally. To be some small part of her life. His voice dropped. I'm not trying to replace you. I couldn't even if I wanted to. I just want a chance to be something. Anything. Even if it's just the guy who sends birthday cards and makes sure she knows her medical history. The reasonable tone, the modest requests, all of it made him harder to hate. And I wanted to hate him, needed to hate him, because anger was easier than the complicated truth that he might actually care about Hannah's well-being. I'll discuss it with Vicky. That's all I can promise. That's all I'm asking. Thank you, Mr. Park. Truly. One more thing. I let steel enter my voice. If you ever go behind our backs again, if you ever contact immigration or try to use legal pressure to force your way into her life, I will make you disappear. Money, lawyers, the entire American legal system won't protect you from me. Are we clear? Crystal clear. Jonathan didn't sound intimidated so much as resigned. For what it's worth, I didn't contact immigration. I don't know who did that. I hung up without responding, but his words echoed in my mind. If Jonathan hadn't triggered the immigration review, who had? The timing was too perfect to be coincidence. My phone rang again immediately. Minho. Boss, we've got a situation. The immigration office just moved up Vicky's hearing. It's tomorrow morning at 9. Tomorrow? That's impossible. They're required to give 30 days notice. They're claiming special circumstances. Minho's voice was grim. Someone with serious pull is expediting this. And boss, there's something else. The officer assigned to Vicky's case? She's Young-hoon's sister-in-law. Everything clicked into place. My cousin wasn't just building a case to remove me from power. He was systematically dismantling my family, using every pressure point available. The immigration review, the timing with Jonathan's petition, all of it orchestrated to prove I was vulnerable, distracted, weak. Get Mrs. Choi on the phone. Now. And I want a full security detail on Vicky and Hannah. 24/7. No one gets close to them without going through our people. Already done. Minho hesitated. Boss Young-hoon is playing for keeps. This isn't just politics. He wants you completely destroyed. Then let's make sure he understands what happens when you threaten my family. I pulled back onto the road, my mind already racing through strategies. Set up that private meeting. Tomorrow night after the immigration hearing. Neutral ground. I'll arrange it. When I got home, Vicky was still awake, curled up on the couch with a cup of tea that had gone cold. She looked up as I entered, and I saw the fear she'd been trying to hide all day. Jonathan called me. I sat beside her, taking her hand. We talked. Her eyes widened. About what? About Hannah. About the heart condition. About what he actually wants. I paused, choosing my next words carefully. I think he's genuine, Vicky. I think he's really changed. Tears welled in her eyes. I never thought I'd hear you say that. It doesn't mean I trust him. It doesn't mean I'm okay with any of this. But I met her gaze. If he has information that could protect Hannah's health, we need to listen. She comes first. Before my pride, before my anger. She comes first. Vicky leaned into me, her body shaking with silent sobs. I hate this. I hate that he abandoned us and now he gets to swoop in like some kind of hero with his medical information and his reformed life. I know. I held her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her hair. But we're going to get through this. Together. There's more, isn't there? She pulled back to look at me. I can see it in your face. What happened? I told her about the immigration hearing, about Young-hoon's involvement, about the coordinated attack on our family from multiple angles. With each revelation, I watched her face pale, watched the fear turn to something harder. Anger. They want to take Hannah away from us. Her voice was flat, dangerous. Your cousin, the immigration office, they're all working together to destroy our family. Yes, then we fight. Vicky stood, her spine straight, her eyes blazing with a fury I'd rarely seen. I didn't survive being abandoned while pregnant in a foreign country just to let some bureaucrats and power-hungry criminals tear apart the family we built. We fight, Kangdae, with everything we have. Pride swelled in my chest. This was the woman I'd fallen in love with. Not because she needed me to protect her, but because she was strong enough to stand beside me when everything fell apart. The immigration hearing is at 9 tomorrow morning. I stood beside her. Mrs. Choi will meet us there at 8 to prepare. We'll need to demonstrate that our marriage is legitimate, that our family is stable. It is legitimate. Vicky's voice was fierce. I didn't marry you for a visa. I married you because you showed up. Because you loved my daughter when her own father couldn't. Because you made us a family. I know that. But we need to prove it to people who've already decided we're lying. We spent the next hour preparing. Gathering documents, photos, evidence of our shared life. Bank statements showing joint accounts. Lease agreements. Medical records listing me as Hannah's father. The pediatrician who'd treated her since birth. Ready to testify about my consistent presence at every appointment. Around midnight, we finally collapsed into bed. Vicky fell asleep almost immediately, exhausted by stress and fear. But I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, my mind refusing to quiet. In the room next door, Hannah slept peacefully, unaware that tomorrow could change everything, that bureaucrats and lawyers and family politics were all converging to tear apart the only life she'd ever known. My phone buzzed with a text. Young-hoon, tomorrow night, the warehouse on the east side, come alone. I replied with a single word. Agreed. Whatever my cousin was planning, whatever move he thought would destroy me, I would be ready. Because he'd made one critical miscalculation. He thought my love for Vicky and Hannah made me weak. He didn't understand that it had made me more dangerous than I'd ever been. The immigration office was sterile and cold, fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows across institutional furniture that had seen too many broken families. We arrived at 8. Mrs. Choi already waiting with her briefcase and her armor of professional competence. The officer assigned to our case was exactly what I expected. Kim Min-seo, Young-hoon's sister-in-law, sat behind her desk with the satisfied expression of someone who'd already made up her mind. She barely glanced at the documents Mrs. Choi presented. Mrs. Park. She emphasized the name with subtle mockery. Or should I say Miss Martinez? You entered Korea on a tourist visa 3 years ago while pregnant. Within weeks of giving birth, you married one of Seoul's wealthiest and most powerful businessmen. She looked up, her smile sharp. You'll forgive me if that raises questions. My marriage to Mr. Park is completely legitimate. Vicky's voice was steady despite the tremor I could feel in her hand beneath the table. We fell in love. We built a family. There's nothing fraudulent about it. Love. Officer Kim leaned back in her chair. How convenient that this love happened to solve your visa problems and provide security for your fatherless child. Careful. My voice was quiet but carried enough edge to make her pause. You're making accusations you can't prove. Can't I? She pulled out a file. I have statements from several of Mr. Park's business associates suggesting the marriage was a transaction. A green card arrangement disguised as romance. Who provided these statements? Mrs. Choi demanded. Anonymous sources concerned about immigration fraud. Anonymous sources with obvious bias. Mrs. Choi slid her own documents across the desk. We have testimony from neighbors, from my client's employer, from their daughter's pediatrician, all confirming a genuine family relationship. We have financial records showing complete integration of their lives. We have photographs spanning 3 years. Officer Kim barely looked at them, none of which proves the initial intent wasn't fraudulent. The circular logic was maddening. No amount of evidence would satisfy her because she'd already decided our guilt. This wasn't about immigration law. This was Jung-hoon using his connections to attack me through my family. What would it take? I asked quietly. To prove our marriage is legitimate? Officer Kim's smile was predatory. A formal investigation. Home visits. Separate interrogations. Full financial disclosure. And given the serious nature of these allegations, Mrs. Park and the child would need to surrender their passports during the investigation. For flight risk purposes, you understand. Vicky's sharp intake of breath told me she understood exactly what that meant. We'd be trapped in Korea, unable to leave, while they slowly dismantled our lives looking for evidence that didn't exist. How long would this investigation take? Mrs. Choi asked. These things are thorough. 6 months. Perhaps longer. 6 months of having our lives dissected. 6 months of uncertainty. 6 months during which Jung-hoon could continue orchestrating attacks on multiple fronts. We'll comply fully. Vicky spoke before I could. Whatever investigation you need to conduct, we'll cooperate completely. Because we have nothing to hide. Mrs. Park. Officer Kim's expression was almost pitying. You should know that if we find evidence of fraud, you'll be deported immediately. And your daughter, given her age and your uncertain status, would likely remain in Korea under Mr. Park's custody pending further legal proceedings. The threat was clear. Cooperate and maybe we'll find nothing. Resist and we'll separate you from your child. Vicky's hand tightened around mine. Her voice, when it came, was steel wrapped in velvet. Then I guess you'd better conduct a very thorough investigation, Officer Kim, because you're not going to find anything except a family that loves each other, no matter how hard you look. After the hearing, we sat in Mrs. Choi's car, none of us speaking for several minutes. The weight of what we were facing pressed down like a physical force. They're going to make this as painful as possible. Mrs. Choi finally broke the silence. Every aspect of your lives will be scrutinized. They'll interview friends, family, colleagues. They'll review every financial transaction, every communication, looking for inconsistencies. Let them look. I was already planning my countermove. They won't find anything because there's nothing to find. Mr. Park. Mrs. Choi turned to face me directly. I need you to understand something. Your cousin has been very strategic about this. The immigration investigation buys him time to build his case with the family council. And if by some chance they do find grounds to deport Mrs. Park, it removes your biggest vulnerability from the board. My biggest strength. I corrected. Not vulnerability. In your world, they're the same thing. Her expression was sympathetic but firm. Everyone knows you'd burn the organization to the ground for them. That makes you unpredictable. Dangerous in ways that make your allies nervous. Good. Let them be nervous. Vicky had been quiet during this exchange, staring out the window at Seoul's skyline. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. Maybe I should just take Hannah and go back to the States, until this settles down. No, The word came out harsher than I intended. We're not separating. That's exactly what they want. But if I'm not here, they can't use me against you. Vicky turned to face me, tears streaming down her face. I'm destroying everything you built, Kangdae. Your position, your power, your family's respect. Maybe everyone's right. Maybe I am your weakness. I pulled her close, not caring that Mrs. Choi was watching. You're not my weakness. You're the reason I became strong enough to deserve the power I have. And I'm not letting them take you away, even if it costs you everything, especially then. I tilted her face up to meet my eyes, because without you and Hannah, what exactly would I be fighting for? If you want to see what happens when a mafia boss is forced to choose between his empire and his family, when bullets fly and blood is spilled to protect the ones we love, don't miss part 3. Hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss the moment everything explodes, because the real war hasn't even started yet.